All right, everybody, happy 2026 and welcome to the Human Intelligent Dialogue. Like always, I have the pleasure and honor to bringing in different speakers with different perspectives. Today, I have someone that I've been following his work since last century. So we've been talking about this kind of stuff and actually sat in on one of his workshops many years ago when we were trying to help create leaders to be more empowered leaders and creating empowering environments back in the day, and we're still doing that today. So I have the pleasure of having with me here right out of the chute for 2026, Mr. Peter Block, who's been around and talked and written about, hey, what do we need to do in work and in life in general to just be better overall. So Peter, I obviously know a lot about you, and there's quite a few people that know a lot about you, but there's some in here, some new listeners that may not. So why don't you give us, I don't know, a minute or so about who is Peter Block and why is Edwin inviting me here?
Well, I studied finance and engineering because I wanted to make a living. I didn't care what I did. And then I got distracted into this field called organization development. A professor caught me in a hall. Peter, there's this field you might like. What is it? I don't have any money. That's okay. Get in, they'll pay for your way. So I got into it and I loved this field because uh, it helped me be a better human being. But instead of talking about finance and engineering, which I was prepared to do, I talked about who are we with each other. And I started running groups. And for me, it was healing, wake me up. I did a group years ago when we had a poverty program. And one of the exercises was, how would you describe each other if you sent them to a masquerade party?
Hmm.
And the group agreed on how they would dress me. They said, "You're a fish hiding behind a rock with glasses."
Hmm.
And I thought, pretty accurate. Maybe I should go to some of these groups myself. And so I've just been attracted to the human side uh, for my own sake. And then I found that I had something to say.
Awesome.
When I was 40, I was consulting, running team building. We helped start that. And working with organizations. I slipped over into communities after about 30 years. And then I started writing when I was 40. Some guy harassed me, heard me give a talk, write a book, leave me alone, write a book, leave me alone. Finally, I gave in, wrote a book, and I was embarrassed by it, and it did well, Flawless Consulting. That kind of after about 3 books, I thought, well, maybe I have thoughts that are useful. That was a new idea for me. I always thought I had a mouth. I didn't know I had a brain. And so that's what's happening. It's nice because as you get older, I don't have to go anywhere and I can still stay engaged.
That's good. Yeah, it's interesting too. I teach an organizational development and change certification workshop with a partner of mine, and one of the books I talk about is, hey, you may want to go look at Flawless Consulting and get some
Thank
ideas
you.
out of there. And it's interesting too how every speaker I've had in this podcast, there's always something that aligns with me, whatever how they introduce themselves or something they do. Yours was interesting because it aligns with how I backed up into this field. I told you earlier I wanted to be a medical doctor, and when I joined the Air Force, I got into the engineering realm because that was a faster way to become an officer. But I was struggling with that because I wasn't paying attention. And then finally, I took a psychology course and fell in love with it. And that took me off in a way that I never thought I would have. So it's
Yeah,
interesting that our journeys are
yeah,
similar, except you were ready to do finance and engineering. I was not. But when I found what I loved, as I tell my undergrad students sometimes when I have them, I say, find what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. So yeah, thanks for that. So tell me, Peter, you've had a lengthy journey and career. You've watched things ebb and flow. What are some human capital trends or trends that you're seeing today in organizational dynamics that you're seeing today play out?
well, it's a complicated question because what you see is more about who you are than what's going on out there.
Fair point.
But I feel that there was a period in the 80s and 90s when the employee was center stage. And we did employee involvement, employee engagement, quality circles. That is gone now. And now I think the employee is a replacement opportunity. And so, and I think, there's still leaders struggle with their humanity and making a living and doing well for the organization. So there's still a longing for a humane workplace. It's just that, when people are not working in an office, it's harder. It was interesting to me when after COVID ended and they say, come back to work, and people said I didn't want to. Instead of asking, well, what would make coming back to work appealing to you? They decided there was office furniture was the key. And so companies went to Ritz-Carlton and said, could we borrow your designer? We want to create a resort in the office. That will bring them back. And so there's a kind of a opportunity for us to say, well, maybe people will come to an office where they experience something different than sitting, looking at a screen, going to meetings, even town hall meetings. And so I think humanizing the workplace is still needed. AI is a convenient excuse to distract us because AI cannot serve anything that matters except labor cost and speed. But and so it's probably concerns me that so little has changed over the years, despite you and my heroic efforts. But it's still there. It also struck me from what we talked about that is that all the data about what works has very little impact. We know that teams do better than an individualistic place. All right, we know that giving people more choice over the way they do their work delivers better customer service. We know that people will stay longer and not need retention bonuses. It strikes me that now to get you to stay, if you're valuable, I have to pay you a lot of money, as if you are a commodity I can purchase. They have something called talent acquisition. Used to be called recruiting.
Yes.
And I think, oh, now I know. Now I understand our relationship. I'm a product that you're acquiring. I thought I was going to work for you. Now you own me. But pass the salt. And so I think, the opportunity is there, and it's disturbing to me that the employee is no longer center stage.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because and you talked about early on about the role of the leader trying to maintain the humanity while they're delivering on results and trying to create the right workplace environment. Something you may have come across, and I've highlighted it here before. Work has become the fifth cause of death due to stress. So, and for 70% of the workforce out there, their biggest stressor is their boss. So that's why, as you said earlier, you and I continue to either write, speak, and to see if anybody will listen, because there are places out there where they're doing it right, and they're actually beating the competition. So for the life of me, I don't understand why, back in the 90s, it was rank and stack when GE was doing its thing and everybody copied them. And then about 2005, Microsoft and companies like that went away from that. Well, now they're doing it again, but they're calling it something different. So it's for the life of me, the more as you and I talked about it, the more I see things change, the more I see them remain the same. And one of the things I try to tell leaders, I've said, you never knew, or you probably never thought about that, when you stepped into your management role, whether you're a first line supervisor or a CEO, that you would take on five roles. You would be a celebrity because the spotlight's on you. You would be a quasi-psychologist because I got to deal with my own issues as I deal with Peter's issue as someone working for me. Quasi-sociologist because of team dynamics. Quasi-anthropologist because of organizational culture. And director of an orchestra because I've got, just like they got to bring out beautiful music from different musicians and
Right.
different instruments, I've got to bring the best out of my team. As I share that with you, what are your thoughts on that, or what does that trigger for you?
Well, I think it's a beautiful way of seeing how complicated it is. And to me, my thoughts go to maybe we're expecting too much of the leader. Any one of those is enough, period. And so my recent work has been to take the spotlight off the leader. And for a long time, I felt that the leader is not there to meet the expectations of employees. I'm not your father. I'm not your mother. And so lately, like the most recent workshop I've worked on was leader as convener, which is conductor in your terms, or maybe anthropologist, or maybe sociologist, but put aside psychologist.
Mhm.
Okay, put aside boss. And let's focus on horizontal relationships and the leader's role in creating that. And so that's where I'm betting now. I also know that data doesn't help. And so now wherever I go, I try to say, what's the experience I can create for you with each other that you can then customize and make your own? Because you can't do it with words. People invite me to give a talk and I say yes. And they say, what do you want to talk about? I say, it doesn't matter what we say now. We'll decide when I get there. But they want me to talk about a book as if I remember them. I want you to talk about stewardship. I want you to talk about empowerment. I want you to talk about, and I know when I enter the room, Zoom or live, I'm going to break them into small groups and try to give them questions that will experience what you and I are talking about. You need to connect. You need questions instead of answers. You need to make contact with people. So instead of asking them what are the 7 characteristics of a good leader, or 5 now, I've reduced it to 5 listening to you. I say, what's the crossroads you're at this stage of your life or work? And as soon as they have that conversation, they connect with each other. And to me, that's the role of leaders, to help peers connect with each other, because that's where the work gets done.
Mhm.
And, you're looking for people looking for you. Anybody that invites you to give a talk is worth showing up for,
Mhm.
because they know who you are, even if you've never met them. And you say, well, how do I use this opening to help them experience a different way of being together?
Mhm.
And so even when they ask me to give a talk, I don't. You talk a little bit. But I, in my mind, say, well, if you expect me to be motivating, inspiring, or insightful, you're going to be sorely disappointed. I'd like to be those things, but it's a little late to change now. And so it's kind of renegotiating our contract and saying, I'm going to provide an experience with you. And I wish that people in leadership development would be more focused on bringing peers together than they are making a better person out of the boss. Because it just reinforces the notion that the boss is there to meet expectations, to be a parent. People say, I'm a coach. Managers still say, I grow people. as if I'm a plant waiting for sunshine and rain to fall upon me. And so a lot of it is just playing with expectations.
Hmm. I like what you say. Interestingly enough, I teach for Kaiser University in Latin America, and the groups that I mainly teach are getting a certificate in management. And I find it interesting because they're all coming in from different organizations. And kind of what you were just saying, they say they learn more from being with me remote than being in a class over there because I, like you, pose questions and break them up into small groups. And then what they learn is, well, my gosh, Peter doesn't work in my industry or my business, but we have the same issues. And it's like this aha moment that they all seem to get along the way. And then I had one gentleman one time who said, well, I know you're up in America and we're down here in Latin America. Are you going to Latin Americanize this? And I said, I'll tell you what, by the end of this class, let's talk about that. Because what I've learned is I've gone around the world. And at the end of the day, people issues are people issues are people issues, irrespective of where you are, even if we have them up on the moon type of thing. So it's interesting what you're saying about, how do we help them reflect and look in the mirror, which is one of the reasons I always say I'm here to help leaders help themselves. As they tell you on the plane, put your mask on first. So put your mask on first and now turn around and try to help your folks help themselves out at the end of the day. But what kind of environment are you creating in order to do that type of thing? Now, so you got into some of the approaches that you take. Let me ask you this. What are you sensing for the future of work? You touched on the whole AI piece, touched on the remote hybrid, the whole workforce psychology. I keep writing about that, how workers' expectations, I say, are changing today, but they were probably always the same. It's just more visible out there because we have more mediums to put the information out there, a lot more research. But what are you seeing for the future of work with when you take into the mix AI, remote hybrid, workforce psychology, workforce evolution, and things like that?
I don't know. I think COVID really changed something because it told me that I have a choice. And it gave me the experience of controlling my day. And this can be hard to take back. Some places say you have to come back to work. And I don't think technology is going to change much. It just saves money and it's faster. So we have a meeting now, and I can get a summary of our meeting in 30 seconds. It still doesn't change the nature of how you and I are going to be together.
Hmm.
It doesn't change any aspirations. It's not going to bring world peace. In fact, it's going to do. And so I still think relationship is the point, and it's a hard sell in an instrumental, commodifying world.
Hmm.
And you're right that wherever you go, people always warn me, you're going to China, this is what they're like. You're going to Japan, this is what they're like. You're going to, this is what they're like. And once you get beneath the surface, and also I love what you said, that when you break them into small groups, they realize they're not alone, they're not crazy, and there's nothing wrong with them.
Hmm.
And that to me is what the essence of humanizing. And so our job will always be to humanize the workplace. I don't see any signs of things changing much, except people becoming more commodified, which is painful. But it's true in all of our lives. I mean, all of a sudden, my dining room table became my office. I'm working more. The great leisure class was the myth of the 60s and 50s. Granted, I no longer wash dishes by hand. But at 6 o'clock at night, people expect me to answer the damn phone. I emailed you, I texted you. What do I have to do to get through? So I think I'm working on departure and saying, let me depart from the boss subordinate tradition we have. I believe there has to be bosses. Somebody's got to see the whole thing, make sure it fits together, make sure we make our promise. to the institution, our promise to customers, our promise to the banker. But I don't want to treat the boss anymore as central. I'm saying thank you for being a boss. And how do we bring people together like you do in your small group? How long does it take for us to trust each other? I can't tell whether it's 8 minutes or 12 minutes. I play with both lengths of, so people are waiting for that. And you break them in I didn't come to break in a small group. I came to listen to you, Mr. Hotshot, expert author. I know that's why you came, comma, eye contact, now break into small groups. Because I know when they do, they're going to get connected in a way. And when you ask them afterwards, wow, I met some amazing people. Even when you go to a live conference, say, how was a 2-day conference? I met some wonderful participants. Maybe there was a lecture I'll remember, but probably not.
Yeah.
And so I think it's our shifting and saying, let the boss be, and let's help people connect with each other in the midst of whatever the world throws at us. And people for years have complained to me about their bosses. And I say, why are you creating the boss in that fashion? So I always asking people to look at what they're doing to create the world, especially the one they're complaining about. Because the greatest gift a boss can give, you can give, is a sense of agency. That maybe your life is more in your own hands than you imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And the world does not believe in that. The news, the journal, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a nation or a business or a restaurant. The only thing that's useful is me to take the notion of what's my role in this and what choices do I have that I didn't think I had. That when you consult with people, when the gift you're giving them is to realize they have more choice than they thought.
Good to hear. So as I listen to you and as we start to wrap this up, I was going to ask you what actionable advice do you provide for managers or employees or even HR professionals that are there trying to help their organizations out. But I'm going to modify that a little bit and ask you either what actionable advice or what actionable questions would you provide to them to help them reflect, or both?
Uh, well, if people want advice, I say, I'll give it to you if you promise to follow it. And nobody ever takes me up on that. Okay. And then, of course, I don't act on what I believe. So half the time I give advice because I'm a fool like the rest of us. But the question is, what's your contribution to the very thing you're concerned about? What's the crossroads you're at? What's the no you've been postponing? What's the yes you no longer mean? They're all agency questions. What courage is required of you now? Because we all want a safe path. And when people say my crossroads is whether to stay or go, I say, well, if you go, you're just going to recreate what you got here. And if you like moving, then move. And then now there are some situations that are awful. And then what's keeping you? Why are you staying here? But most of the time, they're just miserable. They're not awful.
Mm-hmm.
Or difficult. And so that's the advice question is an opportunity to not give advice. Not because I don't, it's because it doesn't help. Knowledge, wisdom, expertise, and data they don't work 60% of the time. That's worth doing for the 40. But 60% of the people who are told to stop smoking leave the doctor's office and have a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
Now, over time, anyway, you know what I'm saying. Thank you, Edwin.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any feelings you have about our conversation? What's
No,
striking you?
say that again.
What is striking you or landing or
For
from?
me, it's so funny. One of the podcast I had earlier on was called Wise Disruption. And it was a gentleman kind of our age nowadays who's working with senior executives. And what he was challenging them was kind of use your wisdom to disrupt what's going on today. And so what was striking me with you was after having ran this journey so far, um, what you're to your point, it's not so much coming back with answers, but it's coming back with questions because um, I can give you a suggestion and it may work for you, but I can give the same suggestion to someone else and it doesn't work for them. So, similar to, as you know, the whole coaching um, profession has exploded. And it has exploded by asking powerful questions, not giving you the answer. And because the answer's inside, at the end of the day, they have to come to grips with what am I going to do to get better? What am I going to do to make my situation better? Whatever the case may be, what am I going to do to address whatever it is? Have I figured out whatever that is yet? So that's what's kind of resonating with me as I listen to you.
Thank you.
And which is what I do with my students and anyone that'll listen is, hey, I'm here to put up a mirror to you. Here are the trends. There are those that consider themselves futurist. I don't, because I've learned a long time ago I can't tell the future, foretell the future. But I do see the trends, and so I put them out there and I go, based on these trends, how's your organization doing in this space? How are you doing in this space? What are you doing about it? Those kinds of things. And so that's kind of where I think you and I are aligned, is that I don't have to have all the answers. And everybody wants a quick, give me the check, give me the top three things I got to go do. Well, that may or may not work for you. And I bet you somewhere deep inside, if you really reflect and think about it, you have the answer you need that you're striving for, you're looking for.
I like you put the word intelligent in your branding, and your stance for a different kind of intelligence. And I like that. And I think what you're saying is true, that people want a quick solution as an escape from freedom.
Yeah.
And I realize at some point what you're doing in your own way is confronting people with their freedom. And you do it as an act of love, not a technique. Not I'm here to help you be a better person. Anytime I think I know what's best for you, I've colonized you. Welcome to Latin America. How's it going? Okay. Anyway, you're fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. So we're glad that you stopped by to visit. We're in the business of helping organizations in the growing era of AI become more HI, and that is become more of a human intelligent workplace. And we do that in a variety of ways. We can do speaking engagements. I can come in and speak to you either at executive retreats, at offsites, keynotes, things of that nature, to kind of share with you some of the trends that are taking place and what the implications may be for your organization. Sort of in a way, put a mirror up to your organization and say, these are the things that are happening. Are you ready for them? Are you doing something about it? So that's just one way. Another way we do some work with organizations is through executive coaching, helping from VPs to frontline supervisors, those to soon to be in supervisory, high potential individuals, help them in their development. Also do leadership and team development work. And along with that, we use instruments to help organizations from a consulting perspective help themselves, whether it's the Human Intelligent Workplace instrument or questionnaire to take a sense of, hey, how are we doing in this space? Also, organizational change readiness questionnaire. Are you ready for the changes? What are you missing based on some of this information? And lastly, we also look at leader behavior effectiveness questionnaires. How well are your leaders doing? How do they assess themselves? And how are the workforce assessing them too, whether it be 360 or others? So we're here to help, particularly in this ongoing changing era that organizations are facing, a time of uncertainty, a time where the workplace or the workforce is expecting different things. So hopefully you'll reach out to us and let us know how we can help you out. You can look at some of our information that we have out on our website, some of the various podcasts, some of the articles and videos that I've put out there. And hopefully those will percolate and create some thoughts and reflective moments to think about maybe we need to have a discussion with the Human Intelligent Workplace. Thank you very much.